Do you struggle with acne? Do you think it might be related to dairy or French fries or chocolate? I'm going to be talking about the myths and unpopular truths related to acne. Hi, I'm Dr. Nana Bawachi. I'm a board-certified dermatologist with a brick-and-mortar practice based in New Jersey, and I'm so excited to be here today to talk about dairy and acne and all the unpopular truths. I truly feel that it's all about the inside-out approach. Whatever you fuel your body with is really important to radiant skin. If you find this information of value to you, make sure you subscribe, you like, you comment below. After this video, I'll be here for an hour to answer any of your questions. I'm here with my longtime friend and registered dietitian, Anthea Levi. She has a private practice called Alive and Well Nutrition, and she is going to break down dairy and its significance to you. So before we go into the deep dive when it comes to dairy, let me just break down acne to you. So acne is a very common chronic condition that we tend to see in kids, primarily at the age of puberty, and then all through adulthood. And the way acne presents is that you may have what we call blackheads and whiteheads or comedones. You could get pustules, you get papules, and you get cysts, and maybe all of them all at once. So some triggers of acne could be due to medications such as lithium, testosterone. It could be due to certain foods like dairy and high glycemic foods and processed foods. It could be due to, triggers could be due to like stress, for instance. So today I want to just talk from a nutritional standpoint specifically about dairy, because anytime you consume dairy, it can cause a lot of inflammation in your body. So Anthea, what is your thoughts on dairy?
Sure. Well, I think there is so much individuality when it comes to dairy and acne and dairy and the body in general. Some people do incredibly well digesting lactose, and other people struggle with it a lot. So there is some research that shows that up to 65% of people have a reduced ability to digest lactose after infancy. And interestingly, that can be more common in certain groups. So people of East Asian, West African, Greek, Jewish, Italian, interestingly, descent may struggle with lactose intolerance. Typically, lactose intolerance is going to be digestive representations or presentations. So they might have digestive distress, whether that's constipation, bloating, diarrhea, abdominal distension. They just don't do well with lactose. Other people, though, do just fine with it. And if they can tolerate it, if their skin can tolerate it, I think it can be a great source of nutrients. It just kind of depends what type of dairy you are choosing. If you tolerate it fine, there are some really great nutrients in dairy products. One being calcium, we all know, so important for strong bones, particularly for women as we age. Potassium, which is great for blood pressure regulation, and really a lot of protein, which we need for a healthy metabolism and a strong immune system. I think that, milkshakes are going to affect our skin and our health differently than some plain Greek yogurt. So that is something that we definitely want to think a lot about. When I'm talking to clients about dairy and considerations, I think about four sort of key factors. Okay. That first factor, which you briefly touched on, is the fat content. So I think we both agree that people don't need to be afraid of fat. If you're choosing dairy, we want to be not having a skim milk. I think a whole milk is going to be your better choice. Not a 0% yogurt, but maybe a 2% or even a 5% yogurt. And there's a few reasons for that. The fat is what satiates us. Right. So it keeps us full. It helps with blood sugar stability. And, for women, there's some research that shows that a higher fat content in your dairy is going to be better for fertility outcomes. So if you're trying to conceive, that's something to consider. Second is going to be the added sugar content. So we know that, more than 1 in 3 Americans already has prediabetes. So we're over consuming added sugars no matter what. And if we can find places to dial that back and cut back a little bit, I think that is a really good choice. So, in your average milk, unless maybe it's chocolate milk, there's not going to be any added sugars. When it comes to things like yogurt, there definitely are. If you can choose a plain, unsweetened, Greek yogurt, for example, no added sugars, and feel free to add your own sweetness, put some fruit. You could even do a little honey. That's going to be a lot less than whatever the manufacturer is adding.
For sure.
Plain or low added sugars, I usually say maybe 6 or 7 grams at the very most per serving. The third factor that I like to think about is fermentation. So when we're thinking about fermented sources of dairy, that would be yogurt or kefir, which is a fermented milk beverage. And those are going to have live active cultures or probiotics in them. We know that probiotics are great for our gut health and by extension our skin health. So fermented dairy is a great choice.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, the last thing we might think about is, organic versus conventional dairy. So you were talking about IGF-1. Mm-hmm. We know that organic dairy has lower levels of IGF-1. So if you're thinking about, I can't get rid of dairy altogether, but I want a little bit, if your budget allows, going for an organic over a conventional, maybe a little bit better.
Awesome. Yeah. It seems that when it comes to a lot of patients, like I consume a lot of yogurt, they don't even think that yogurt can potentially exacerbate their acne. Mm-hmm. And I remember getting into a little bit of an argument with somebody, with a mom, and I was just like, I think, just cut it out, at this point. So sometimes I think it's always good to consider initially like avoiding it. Mm-hmm. And then you could maybe reintroduce it just in moderately and just say, just have it like once or twice a week rather than having it every single day. But all the suggestions that you made with regards to the sugar content, and then also just adding your own berries and just getting those natural sugars and the fiber is really, really important there.
Totally. And I think, so much of nutrition is sort of an experiment sometimes to see what works with your body, and that can be different for everyone. Right. So, try to remove the dairy, minimize it, see if you notice any differences with your skin, and take it from there.
For sure. And I think with teenagers, what's so difficult is, and when we're talking about IGF-1, is that you need IGF-1 for like cell proliferation. You need it for like your tissue health, and they're growing, right? Mm-hmm. So they already have that IGF-1 just growing with them. But then they're also they consume a lot of dairy. Mm-hmm. They're eating tons of cheese and all the other nonsense that they're eating, and then therefore we're noticing that they tend to have more acne. They're the more the acne-prone population. So if we were to figure out their whole nutrition, their regimen a little bit, and just make it more plant-based, then that would be best. So for anyone out there, we always say try to eat the rainbow, incorporate more, I said processed foods, definitely not. Definitely consider more fruits and vegetables, non-processed foods, because the Western diet is full of processed foods. It's very heavy in the glycemic index there. But when you eat more vegetables and fruits, it's a win-win. More fiber, natural sugars, and definitely moderation with the dairy.
Yeah.
If we had to pick a plant-based milk, what would be the suggestion? Because that's the next question a lot of individuals ask.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's different considerations, right? So if we are really looking for a milk that's going to be similar in its protein profile compared to a cow's milk, I usually will recommend a soy. If you can do unsweetened and organic, that's great, but that cup for cup has the same amount of protein as cow's milk. If soy is not really for you, I'd say, going for something like an almond milk might be an option. Again, going for unsweetened. Now you can find brands that are made from almonds and water, and that's it. So if you can do that, that's great. I usually steer away from the oat milk. It can be a little bit more, higher on that glycemic index like you talked about, and really no protein at all there. So.
I like that. Okay. And I know there was I always used to hear from a lot of some of my patients, they would DM me about oat milk, about how there's so many emulsifiers and so much fat in there. So I don't know if you know anything about the emulsifiers and fat, and like if we're reading our labels, what should we avoid? What should we not avoid?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think with the oat milk in particular, a lot of brands are adding like a canola oil to get some texture in there. And our diets are so full of seed oils like a canola oil, sunflower, safflower, soybean. Those are those oils that are high in omega-6 fats, which are not horrible on their own, but we get a lot of them already. So if we're just adding them to our milk as well, it's not totally necessary. So I'd say avoiding ones that have any sort of added oils like that. Carrageenan is something that's in a lot of plant-based milks. Not great for your gut health.
And it also causes acne.
Okay, there you go.
Could be a trigger.
Yeah, so, the more ingredients you can recognize, I think the better. Personally, at home, I will blend cashews with water and dates, and it's a delicious combination, and I know exactly what's going in there.
Right. Yeah, I think if you could just spend the time and do it yourself, you're just better off.
Yes, which, not everybody has. It's a luxury, and it's you do the best you can with what you can.
Absolutely. There are categories of foods that can cause acne flare-ups, but I really felt that dairy just needed a deep dive, and we need to just dissect it out. If you want to know more about foods that could possibly cause acne or trigger acne, please comment below and I can make that video for you. Any tips, feedback, or comments, please like, subscribe, comment below. I'm so excited that you enjoyed this video.